Good evening, parents and guardians of seniors. Welcome to our remote back to school night. My name is Allison Quick, and I just wanted to introduce the course to you, introduce myself to you, and kind of run through the one document that I shared with you, just to let you know about what your children will be doing this year. Now, of course, we all know it is a very abnormal senior year, and I just hope and pray that we get back to normalcy as soon as possible so they get the kind of senior year that we all want them to have. On top of this document, you will see my email address. Please make sure you reach out anytime you have a question or you have a concern so you can reach me there. And as far as the code of conduct is concerned, you can read through it at your leisure. I am a taskmaster, a loving one, a gentle one, but I do keep expectations high. So you will see some of my expectations in that code of conduct. So just because they're seniors, there is no reason to take my foot off the gas. So it is full steam ahead because next year it gets all too real. So I certainly want to get them prepared. In short, we need to get them writing better, reading better, speaking better, and thinking better. And so that is what I have planned through some of the course content that I will detail to you. I have a quote on top of my second page of the document, and it was said by Romeo in Romeo and Juliet. And this is right after he gets exiled from Verona, Italy, and he knows he will no longer be able to be with the love of his life, Juliet. And in despair, he cries out, "There is no world without Verona walls." Well, I beg to differ with Romeo. There is a world outside of Verona walls. There is a world outside of Verona, Italy walls and Verona, New Jersey walls. And so this course will in part take us to different places and different times to expand their horizons, so to speak. But we actually start with identity. And right now they're writing their college essay drafts. Some students have already completed a draft and submitted it to me, and I have offered my feedback and my tips. In class, we've been going over some sample essays and again, some pointers on how to write a better essay. So, right now, some of them are just dipping their toe in the pool of the process, but I do have a due date for all of my students. That's October 1st for the submission of their college essay draft, just to make sure everybody's ready to meet future deadlines. And they can continue to send in drafts for me to look over so they feel comfortable and confident with what they ultimately send in. So we'll be leaving our college essay behind so they can work on it. And we'll introduce the idea of identity through some general short stories and all of the aspects that kind of shape or contribute to one's identity. So those will be in digital form, so you won't see any physical books yet because they'll just be reading short stories that I have for them online. And then we'll get to the Truman Show, just to kind of explore how an identity can be completely manufactured, even by a second party. So that will be a part of our first unit. And we'll wrap it up by having them design and then deliver a speech about an item that they feel represents a piece or a part of their identity, and they'll deliver that speech to their peers. Then we'll get on to the culture part of the course, which is Unit 2, and we'll kind of embroil ourselves in some difficult cultures. What happens when you have an abnormal environment like one we're living in right now during a pandemic? Well, what happens to the individual identity when the world is at war? We'll explore that idea in Remarks All Quiet on the Western Front. And what happens to the individual identity during the harsh and brutal policy of apartheid? That's what we'll look at in Master Harold and the Boys. So we'll take a trip to Europe, and then we'll take a trip to South Africa, And then we'll take a trip to Burundi and Rwanda. If you look at letters C and D in my Unit 2, This Voice in My Heart is a memoir from a survivor of a genocide in Burundi. And we'll be looking at some excerpts of his memoir. And we'll pair that with Hotel Rwanda because it's the same genocide. Burundi and Rwanda are next door neighbors. And so the genocide that you've heard of in Rwanda also spilled over into Burundi. And so we'll be looking at the impact of what a genocide can do to an individual's identity. And if there is time, I would like to explore what can happen to a pack of schoolboys, British schoolboys, on a deserted island without any adults around to guide them and keep them in line. What happens when they are left to their own designs? So I'm hoping we'll have time to address Lord of the Flies as well. And then the third part of the course is the race part of the course, where we're going to look at, I guess you could say, some of the best writers and thinkers throughout our American history. And so, how does our history impact our collective identity? So, I start out with Wheatley, one of the greatest poets, and Frederick Douglass, speech writer, narrative writer, abolitionist, statesman. We'll look at Du Bois and Booker T. Washington and their disagreements. We'll work our way up to the civil rights era by looking at Hurston and Wright and James Baldwin and Ralph Ellison. Do a little mini research on the differing opinions of MLK and Malcolm X. And then we'll look at The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison and a film by Spike Lee called Do the Right Thing that is still so relevant today. And look at the speech that put Barack Obama kind of on the national stage, his More Perfect Union speech. And we'll finish up the year with the most modern work by Ta-Nehisi Coates called Between the World and Me. And if there is time, a film that pairs well with that is called Get Out. Some of you might have seen it a few years ago. So we'll be looking at a wealth of different perspectives that can kind of help us face our history and understand our current world. So that is the hope for the year. That's everything that I have planned. We'll see how well my plans come to fruition. But I just wanted to touch base with you and let you know where you can reach me and implore that you do reach out to me whenever you need me. So thank you for your time. I look forward to working with you, with working with your children. And please know I'm available whenever you need me. Take care. Have a great year.